we're going to group our words by email. And to do that, we'll use the pandas group by method. Let me add a markdown cell here that reads combine, can't spell, combine occurrences with the pandas group by method. Now, I'm guessing that you will have used Excel, Microsoft Excel, at some point in the past. And in Excel, there's a very powerful functionality called a pivot table. And this group by method works in a very, very similar way. It will allow us to group the occurrences by document ID, word ID, and label. And then we can sum up our occurrences. Let me show you. Train underscore grouped is equal to sparse underscore train underscore df dot group by open parentheses. And I will provide a list. Square brackets, single quotes, doc underscore ID, comma, single quotes, word underscore ID, comma, single quotes, label. And at the very end, we're going to chain another method call, namely the summation. So dot sum at the end will sum up our occurrences after they've been grouped. But I think seeing is believing. So let me show you what this looks like. So train underscore grouped dot head will show us the result. Here we go. What we see here is that for our document with ID 0, our first document, we've got a bunch of words in here that are grouped together by ID. The word with ID number 0 occurs twice in this first email. This is all that this table is showing us right here. Now, you might say, all right, well, what's that word ID number 0? What's word 0? So we can pull that up, right? We can go to our vocabulary and we can say dot at square brackets 0, comma, single quotes, vocab underscore word. This, if you recall, was the column name in our data frame. And this here is the index name which corresponded to our word ID. The actual word that occurs twice in our vocabulary is HTTP. Why does this occur twice? Well, it's because there's two hyperlinks in our email. The original email, right, at document ID 0, we can pull up with data dot message square brackets 0. And this email reads, dear homeowner, interest rates are at their lowest level, blah, blah, blah. If I look further down in the text, I see the first hyperlink here, and I see the second hyperlink here. This is why the word HTTP appears twice in this document. So our group by function, combined with the summation method, seems to have worked really well. The thing I would quite like, though, is to have less of this pivot table feel to it and repeat the document ID on every single row. We can do that with train grouped equals, so we're just going to overwrite it, right? Train grouped dot reset index. Reset index will make our document ID appear on every single row. Train grouped dot head will show you exactly that. Fantastic. Let's take a quick look at the tail of this data frame as well. Train underscore grouped dot tail parentheses gives us this result. And we're going to do the same very quick sense check on this result as well. In particular, let's take a look at what word corresponds to 1923. It appears to occur twice in this email. Now, you can either work ahead or follow along with me, but we've done this already. Vocab dot at square brackets 1923, comma, single quotes, vocab underscore word. This gives us the result Welch, which is a very odd word, right? Doesn't quite seem like a real word, but it could be a stemmed word, right? So maybe that's why it's a bit strange. Let's pull up the actual message and see why this word appears twice. Data dot message square brackets 5,795. This brings up quite a short email, and it appears that Welch is actually a name. It's a last name of this guy, Brent Welch, a software architect. And the word appears again in his email address, which is at the very end of this email. So this is why it's here. So I'm quite happy about this. I think this is good. This seems to pass the sense check. The only thing I'd be quite curious to find out now is how big of a reduction we've achieved in the number of rows from before. So if I say train underscore grouped dot shape, then I can see that we've reduced the size of our data frame quite a bit. We've gone from 450,000 odd to approximately 265,000 rows. That's still a lot, but it's about a 40% reduction. And I think this puts us in a really good place to save our work. So let's do that now. I'll add a very quick markdown cell here. Call this one save training data as .txt file. In the previous lessons, we've saved our files once before as a .json file and as a .csv file. This is how we saved our files to our disk previously. Now let's save a file as a plain text file. And for this, we're going to use NumPy's functionality. But before we do that, we're going to need a relative file path at the top of our notebook. That way, it sits nicely with its friends. Now I'm planning to save this file in a slightly different folder, right? But first, let's give it a name. I'm going to call it training underscore data underscore file. And I'll set that equal to spam data /02 underscore training / train hyphen data.txt. I'll be adding our text file to this folder right here. Now be sure to hit Shift-Enter on your cell with your constants, and then join me down here at the bottom of the notebook with np.save.txt parentheses training data file, comma, train grouped, comma, fmt is equal to single quotes %d. If I hit Shift Tab on my keyboard to bring up the quick documentation, we see that this is the file name, including the relative file path. This here, the second argument, is the data, and the third argument is fmt, which stands for format. If I hit the plus sign here and scroll down, then I can see that our format argument requires a string or a sequence of strings. This essentially allows us to specify the number format. Lucky for us, we're just dealing with integers. If I bring up my folder here, side by side, and hit Shift-Enter now, then I should see my text file appear right here. Before I open this text file and peep inside, let me show you what the columns are called in Jupyter Notebook. So train underscore grouped dot columns will bring up our column names. So it's doc ID, word ID, label, and occurrence. Now let's look at this text file. If I open it up in my text editor here, then I can see the 4 columns clearly outlined. The first one is my document ID. The second number here is the word ID. The third number is the category or label. So the first message here is in fact a spam email. And that fourth number here is the occurrence of the word with this ID. Looking at line 16 here, the word with ID 105 occurs twice in this spam email. So I think that almost wraps it up, except we haven't done this for our test data yet. And that's where I want to throw it over to you. As a challenge, can you create a sparse matrix for the test data and then group all the occurrences of the same word in the same email together, just like we did with the training data? After you've done all that, save the data as a TXT file. Now, I realize you're going to have to save that data to someplace and give it a file name. So let's do that right now so that you and I have the same file names going forward. Scrolling up to our constants, I'm just quickly going to copy this relative path, paste it in, and then change the file name here to test and change the constant name from training to test as well. So test underscore data underscore file is equal to this relative path, file name, and extension right here. Now I don't have to ask you to pause the video because I'm going to show you the solution in the next lesson. I'll see you there.